Before we dive in, please subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to hit the bell-like button. Welcome back to the channel, bringing you the latest news from around the world. Why are there not more people talking about what just happened between China and Taiwan? Breaking news: Beijing accepts Taipei's offer for talks. The words ripple across the globe, igniting a frenzy of speculation and hope. Imagine that headline flashing across your screen, phones buzzing, news alerts screaming, the world pausing in disbelief. For decades, the Taiwan Strait has been a flashpoint, a line drawn in history and ideology, separating two governments with irreconcilable visions of the future. In Taipei, a stunned foreign minister faces a sea of microphones, confirming what many thought impossible. Beijing has sent a cryptic message, signaling a willingness to discuss the future. The room is thick with tension, every word weighed for hidden meaning. The words are vague, but the shock is seismic. A door long bolted shut has creaked open. For years, official communication has been frozen, replaced by military drills, diplomatic snubs, and a steady drumbeat of warnings from both sides. Inside President Lai Ching-te's office, the atmosphere is electric. Aides scramble to verify the message's authenticity, cross-checking every detail, aware that a single misstep could trigger a crisis. The stakes could not be higher. Is this a genuine shift from Xi Jinping or a calculated test of Taiwan's resolve? For years, Xi has vowed to bring Taiwan under Beijing's control by force if necessary. Yet here is a message that hints at dialogue, an enigma wrapped in strategy. Experts flood TV studios dissecting every word. Does discuss the future mean peaceful coexistence, or is it a veiled demand for unification? The phrase is loaded, its ambiguity fueling endless debate among diplomats, scholars, and ordinary citizens alike. The ambiguity itself becomes the story, thrusting Taiwan into a diplomatic minefield under the world's gaze. International media descend on Taipei, satellite trucks crowding government buildings, as headlines race across tickers from Washington to Tokyo. For millions, families gathered in living rooms, business leaders recalculating risks, young people glued to their screens, this is more than a headline, it's a personal turning point. The uncertainty seeps into daily life, coloring every conversation with anxiety and hope. The world holds its breath, waiting for the next move in this high-stakes geopolitical chess match. Is this the beginning of a new era, or the calm before an even greater storm? Now let's ground ourselves in reality. As of today, September 6, 2025, there's no credible evidence that China has accepted any offer for dialogue from Taiwan. The dramatic scene we imagined is pure fiction. The real cross-strait relationship is one of stalemate and silence. Taiwan's leaders, including President Lai, have repeatedly called for talks, always on the basis of parity and dignity without preconditions. Beijing's answer? A flat refusal, demanding Taiwan first accept the 1992 consensus and the One China principle. For Taiwan's ruling party, that's a non-starter. It would compromise sovereignty. So the door to dialogue remains locked, with Beijing holding the only key. This isn't a story of missed connections, but of deliberate rejection and mounting pressure. China backs its demands with near-daily military incursions, naval drills, and threats of force. The strategy is clear: create conditions where Taiwan has no choice but to capitulate. The reality is not missed opportunities, but a sustained policy of coercion. But what if, against all odds, Beijing agreed to talks without preconditions? The process would start quietly. Low-level, exploratory meetings in a neutral country like Singapore or Switzerland. Diplomats, not leaders, would cautiously set the agenda and ground rules, focusing first on small, confidence-building steps, limited tourism, climate cooperation, maritime safety. Each side would test the other's sincerity, searching for hidden motives. If trust grew, back-channel negotiations would intensify, perhaps with a neutral third party quietly facilitating. Only after months or years of careful progress could a public summit between leaders be imagined. The world would see a historic handshake, but the real work would have happened in secret, incremental steps. The path from yes to real agreement would be long, fragile, and fraught with risk. Every move would require immense political courage and a willingness to break with decades of hostility. The marathon of diplomacy would only begin with that first cautious step. News of China-Taiwan talks would send shockwaves through the global order. The US would publicly welcome reduced tensions, but behind the scenes, officials would worry about Beijing's motives and Taiwan's security. Japan and South Korea would be relieved yet wary, fearing shifts in the regional balance and US military posture. Both would quietly ramp up intelligence and diplomatic coordination with Washington. The European Union would hail the talks as a diplomatic victory, but individual states would weigh economic opportunities against security risks. The fate of Taiwan's semiconductor industry would be a particular concern for Europe. Every major power would publicly applaud, but privately strategize: is this real peace, or a Trojan horse? Allies would seek assurances that Taiwan's democracy and autonomy aren't being bargained away. The dialogue would force a global re-evaluation of China policy, creating uncertainty and new alignments. The world would watch, hopeful but cautious, as the stakes could not be higher. The central question: is this the dawn of peace, or the start of a new, more dangerous game? Even if talks began, the risks would be enormous. Beijing might see negotiations as a path to unification, Taipei as a route to peaceful coexistence, an irreconcilable gap. A collapse could embolden hardliners in Beijing, justifying more aggressive action. In Taiwan, public backlash would be fierce, protests erupting, accusations of selling out sovereignty. The president would face a political tightrope: reassure the public while negotiating with an authoritarian regime. Prolonged talks could sap international support for Taiwan's defense, as allies hesitate to disrupt peace. Beijing could use the process to weaken Taiwan militarily and psychologically. Chinese state media would spin the talks as a victory, isolating Taiwan diplomatically. Every gesture would be scrutinized, every word parsed for signs of concession. The pressure to avoid missteps would make genuine compromise nearly impossible. The risk peace talks that leave Taiwan more vulnerable than ever. What paths could China-Taiwan relations take in the coming years? Experts outline several scenarios, each with its own risks and opportunities. One possibility: a fragile status quo where both sides avoid direct confrontation, but tensions simmer beneath the surface. Here, military buildups and political posturing continue, yet open conflict is averted through careful diplomacy and international pressure. Another scenario: gradual economic integration. Some analysts predict that increased trade, investment, and people-to-people exchanges could slowly build trust, making outright conflict less likely, but also raising concerns about Taiwan's autonomy slipping away quietly. A third, more optimistic vision: a new diplomatic framework. International mediators could help broker limited agreements such as direct flights, crisis hotlines, or joint disaster response. These confidence-building measures wouldn't solve core disputes, but could reduce the risk of accidental escalation. But there are darker forecasts as well. Some experts warn of a sudden crisis sparked by miscalculation, domestic politics, or shifting US-China relations. In this scenario, dialogue breaks down and both sides prepare for confrontation, drawing in regional and global powers. Ultimately, the future remains uncertain. Each scenario reflects not just political choices but the hopes and fears of millions. As the world watches, the stakes for peace or conflict could not be higher. If such talks were announced, headlines would split between hope and skepticism. Some would hail a chance for peace, families reunited, and the end of decades of hostility. Others would warn of a Trojan horse, citing China's history of broken promises. Social media would buzz with doubt. Why now? Is this just a new strategy for annexation? It's crucial to remember, this scenario is fiction. The political reality remains unchanged, China's pressure continues, and true dialogue is nowhere in sight. This thought experiment highlights the monumental stakes. A real breakthrough would reshape the Indo-Pacific and the world. It could bring lasting peace, or set the stage for greater danger. The mere possibility reminds us how quickly the world can change. The future of the Taiwan Strait remains one of the world's most urgent questions.